Hello, this is Jill from Paper Daisy Crafting. Thank you so much for joining me today. Welcome to another edition of my card making for beginners series. I'm going to make a very simple little card today. I've used some products on mine that you may not have in your stash, but it's very easy to either substitute things or to just use something else. So for example, I've used a very ornate frame round here from the Ornate Layers die, but you could just cut a rectangle here. You don't need that fancy layer. It just adds a little something. Again, I've printed my sentiment on a label from the Tasteful Label set. You could just put yours on a rectangle of card and put it there. So you don't need all this fancy stuff, but I'm going to show you how to do the daisy using this lovely set, which has been a bit neglected in my stash recently. It came out, must have been out 3 years ago now. I think it's been out ages, and it coordinates with this lovely punch. We've got a bigger one as well. This is the medium daisy punch, which punches out that one. We've got a bigger daisy one just called daisy punch, which punches out the bigger one as well, and they're great. And of course, being Paper Daisy Crafting, I loved it when these came out, and I did overuse them a bit, but I haven't used this set for ages and ages. And in fact, I've only ever used the daisies. I've never used any of these other stamps. So today we're using the stem, and I'm just going to show you how I did it. So just bring my card in again so you can see what we're doing. We need a piece of Whisper White. I keep all my scraps in a little package like this, Whisper White, and what I tend to do is cut up a few sheets of Whisper White cardstock into a quarter of A4 size, so it's about 4 by 6 inches. Or 10.5 by 15. So I've got it to use, and I use it all the time. This is going to be slightly too wide, but that's fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to ink up the stem. I've got it mounted here on an H block, but of course, when you buy blocks, it's probably a good idea to buy the biggest one that you can afford, so all your stamps will stamp on it. But it's quite useful to have smaller ones. It's much easier to stamp a sentiment like this with a smaller block. So as time or money allows, or maybe birthdays come and go and people are asking what you want for your birthday, maybe that's a good idea, a few more blocks. I've got loads, but then that's because I demonstrate. You only actually need one, as long as it's big enough to fit each one of your stamps. Right, so we're going to stamp the stem in. I'm hoping I've done that so that I've got enough room there. Oof. Pretty close thing, I think. I might, let's show. I might just about do. I've stamped it a bit too high. I really needed it a bit down below, but I'm going to go with it. I'm going to go with it anyway. See, even us pros, not that I'm really a pro, but we do make mistakes. Right, what are we going to do now? Right, we're going to do a lid now. Can you see here? I stamped this in Granny Apple Green, but can you see it's got some pale green in between? Now, there are a number of ways you could do that. You could use a watercolour pencil. You could use a blend. You could use a stamping marker. What I used today was one of our blender pens. These are on page 129 of the annual catalogue, and they've got some sort of liquid in them that allows them to blend colours. I'm not quite sure what's in them, but they last forever. These are like silicone tips, so once you've used it, you can just clean them off, and then they're ready to use with a different colour. And what it does is just picks up some of the colour and moves it around, and so fills in all those white spaces. They're very easy to use, especially on basic white cardstock, which is really smooth. I did by accident use a different piece of white cardstock, and it wasn't quite so successful. So definitely the best results from basic white or some other really smooth card that's designed for stamping on. There are other companies that supply it. Right, and that just fills in. I quite like that effect of filling in. It's sort of like it's filled in with a lighter green, which was exactly the effect I was going for. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to do the daisy. So now I had a piece of cardstock which I put away. I'll just grab another piece. And we're going to stamp 2 of the medium daisies. So just on the edge here, here's my medium daisy punch stamp, And I need my smoky slate. There it is, smoky slate, because I just want this to be a little bit coloured. I don't want it to be pure white. You see, I've just used smoky slate there, but I have stamped it off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp, stamp, and then onto the cardstock. So it's very, very pale. So this is smoky slate, like I say, I'm stamping, stamping. So it's 3rd generation stamping I'm getting on here. It's very, very pale. I only wanted just a whisper of a colour. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the punch. When you're stamping, your stamps need to be near the bottom of your card so that it will fit in your stamp. And then you just need to line up all the petals. Just keep turning it gently until it's lined up. And then just gently, I haven't punched anything yet, but I've just grabbed it. And then you can tell whether it's in the right place. And if it is, you can punch. And then the same thing here. Just line it up. Grab it. Oh, it's not quite right. So I grabbed it and it wasn't quite right. So I'm just going to adjust it a little bit again. Just takes a little bit of time and practice. There we go. Right, and what we're going to do is we're going to layer these 2 daisies on top of one another. Actually, I'm going to do this one because this one's lighter. I'm going to put the lighter one on top. Don't know why that should be so, but hey ho. Right, so just a little bit of Tombow glue, which I've forgotten to get out. Here we go. Just a little dab of Tombow on the back here. Tiny, tiny bit, don't need much. And then just line these up like so. And I'm just going to pick that up with my tweezers and put that to one side because I don't want that to move. If you touch it, the petals tend to scooch round a bit. Right, okay. So what we're now going to do is we are going to go back to our piece of cardstock where we created our stem, and I am just going to bring my daisy back in. I know I said don't touch it, but I just want to make sure it's in the right place for when I do the die cutting. And now I've got to find the die, which I had. Oh, here it is. This die is from Ornate Layers, which is on page 164 of your annual catalogue. So it carried over from last year. Lots and lots of different ornate borders, really pretty. Haven't used it nearly enough, I must say. Right, and I'm just adding a little bit of washi tape that I've unsticky, so I've just put it on my clothes a bit to unsticky it so it's not too sticky, but it will hold my die in place. And then with my daisy in place, I can just maneuver, and because I stamped a little bit too high, I'm going to have to do it just a little bit higher than I really want it, but I think it will be okay. So, and just make sure you've got your daisy. It doesn't matter about the stem being centralised, but you want the daisy fairly central. So, there we go. I think that will do. Not much of card left to stick that one to. There we go. Right, and then I'm going to take my big cut. This would fit through the little one if I trimmed my card off a bit. But I'm going to use my big cutter for the moment. My big cut and emboss machine. Love it, love it, love it. And because it's also handy, I can just swivel round on my chair and reach it. I used to have to get up, can you believe it? I used to have to get up and walk outside my room to get to my big shot because there wasn't room in here to store it. But because this cut and emboss has got such a small footprint, I can reach it. I can have it on my shelf behind me. There we go. So that's done. I'm going to put this down. We're going to need that again, or we might be able to use the little one next time. Mini one. You don't need both though. Just be aware that although I might demonstrate with both, you don't need both. And like I say, if you don't have this particular die, you could just cut a rectangle to mount your daisy on. Would look just nearly as pretty. Doesn't this just adds a little bit extra? So I know some of you, if you're a beginner crafter, you may not have a die cutting machine, or you may not have these dies. I have to say this would probably be a really good set as a starter if you were thinking about what dies to buy to start with. These layers are going to be very useful to have in your collection, all these different ornate layers. Right, there we go. And now we're going to come back with my daisy, which hopefully has dried a little bit, and take my bone folder and just fold those, bend those petals up a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the dark Daffodil Delight blends pen, and I'm just going to colour in the centre. For me, daisies are white with a yellow centre. I know you can get daisies in all kinds of colours, but for today, that's the colour of my daisy. So just colour that in. And then this is going to glue over onto here. So learn by my mistakes. When you're stamping, make sure you get your stem in the right position before you stamp, because mine is a little bit high. I'm going to go with it, but it's higher than I would have liked it. You can see it's not going to look that much different, but just slightly different. Right, I'm going to go with a different colour for my background this time. Here I use Daffodil Delight to link in with this. Today I'm going to use soft sea foam. I haven't used soft sea foam for ages, and it's one of my favourites. I love this colour. So what I'm going to do is I've got a piece of cardstock that is 15 by 21, and I'm going to take the long edge and I'm going to score it 10.5. So that will give us our card blank. And I thought this would just echo the green without being... I tried it with Granny Apple Green, but I didn't like it. It was too in your face. So, and once again, that hasn't quite met. So what I'm going to do, you can do this with your trimmer. I'm going to do it with my chopper. Oh, I am, at least I am. Oh gosh, I think this must be longer than 50. I'm going to have to chop a little bit off this. Oh, right, let's go back to my trimmer. Luckily I've got all these tools, and just see how long this is, because it's obviously, it is a bit longer than 50. I knew it must be because it wouldn't fit in my little trimmer. My little trimmer will fit 15, so it's a bit bigger. This was just a bit of scrap card that I had, so it's obviously not quite. And then, right, okay, I'm going to do that in, as I've got my trimmer out, I'm just going to trim a little bit off here so that those edges line up. Ta-da! That's better. That's much better. Right, and as I say, just go through it round and just use your bone folder to iron out those. Then you've got to kind of lip when you use the trimmer. So there we go. So I thought that might look quite nice. Get a bit of a different effect from some furry edges here from the one that we did before. So yeah, quite like that. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. So I'm going to take my Tombow, and I'm going to, a little bit of Tombow round here. Now, it depends on how you want it to look. I wanted these bits to stick down. So in order to do that, I'm going to do my cocktail stick trick, or toothpick if you're in the States. Just trying to get some of the glue onto those on those edges. You don't want to put it on with the Tombow dispenser because you'll get too much and that'll all ooze through the holes. But if you do this, you can just get a little bit and it'll hold down all those sides. And then we just want to try and centre it and have it equidistant at the top and the bottom. And I've just noticed I've just got another one of the little holes to punch out. There we go. So try and get all the holes pushed out as well. Most of them fall out when you die cut it, to be honest, but there we go. Now my sentiment was from this lovely set, which again has been a bit neglected. So lots of things getting a workout today. It's this sentiment here, I love it. Happy birthday to you. It's a really nice little sentiment. So now I've got to decide what colour I'm going to stamp in. I could either do it in Granny Apple Green. I could do it in grey. I did have it in grey somewhere. I've done one in grey. That would match the flower. I think that looks quite nice actually. I'm going to go with that. So this was this stamp stamped straight on in smoky slate, so I hadn't stamped it off or anything. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use one of these dies. Again, you can just, if you've got a happy birthday or whatever sentiment you want on your card, use that, and then just cut it out as a rectangle and put it on here. It'd be absolutely fine. I'm going to use one of these labels, which is another set of labels called the Tasteful labels. Really, really lovely set. And what's really good is you get an edge round the negative as well as the positive. So you cut this label out, you'll get stitching around it, but you'll also get stitching around the aperture. So you could use the aperture as well. This one has got stitching. Some of them have just got lines, sort of they emboss lines around. Some of them got stitching. And these ones have got sort of zigzags. Really lovely set. It's quite new to me. I've not had it long, but I'm loving it. Okay, so I'm using this little label, which is like a hexagon, but not a regular hexagon, from that set. And again, I'm going to use a little bit of washi tape. So I take the washi tape, and then I can't show you because you can't see, but I'm just putting it on my clothes and taking it off because I don't want it to be quite so sticky. There we go. So that's going there. So that is going through. I'm going to leave my grid paper in place in the hope that it doesn't squish it all over the place. Take my plate. Oh, crash. Oh, sorry about that. Hope I didn't deafen you. There we go. And I'm just going to scooch this through my machine. Quite liking that word at the minute, scooch. There we go. Just check it. Oh, look at that. Fell out without any. Oh dear, I'm having fun today. I'm going to find plates for my mini cut and emboss all over the place when I've finished. And here we go. And so I might just change. No, I'm going to put it there. So that will make it look like the stem was going to go down further, and it won't be obvious that it stops just a little bit too soon. So I'm just going to take some dimensionals. My trusty tweezers. There we go. So thank you for joining me today. I hope you're all okay. Here in the UK, we've got a very worrying resurgence of cases of coronavirus. So whereas I had begun to feel quite safe going out, even though I've had 2 vaccines, I'm now beginning to feel a bit unsafe again. My daughter has had a message that she's been in contact with someone that has coronavirus, so she's got to isolate. Just had a message from a friend today that her and her husband are having to isolate. So it's still out there, it's still around, and there doesn't seem to be any you know, you can't be 100% sure that just because you're vaccinated you're safe. So just feeling a little bit wary actually. Bent petal here to straighten him up. So I'm just taking it a bit easier and just taking it a day at a time. Really don't want to go back down into that lockdown again. There we go. And be trapped in the house 24/7. Right, there we go. Right, I'm just going to show you what I did inside. I just did a little daisy. So a little bit, another piece of basic white, which I'm going to cut down to 9 by 14. No, 9 by 13 and a half actually, so that we get a nice big border around it. 9 by 13 and a half. So it'll be 1.5 centimetre border, which will be 3/4 centimetre all the way around. So that's going to go there. So a nice big border on the inside panel, which I don't mind at all. Let's just put some Tombow around that. Could have stamped it first, doesn't really matter as long as you're fairly confident you're not going to mess up your stamping, because if you do, you're a bit stuck then because you've already stuck this in. So if you're not quite confident, stamp first. Remember, each piece of cardstock has got 2 sides, so if you go wrong you can always turn it over. I'm not giving myself that option today. Right, and take your daisy stamp again and your smoky slate. Again, we're going to stamp off twice. because we want this to be a very pale image. And just stamp down in this corner. And it's going to be like a skinny daisy. It's not going to be a full daisy like that one, but it will just echo what we've done on the front and bring that through into the inside of the card, which I always like to do. Here we go. Take my Daisy Daffodil Delight pen again and just colour that centre. And we are done. 2 beautiful Daisy birthday cards. Very, very simple. This is another one. This coordinating stamp set and punch are really good ideas if you are a beginner stamper, because they're really easy to use. I know I've used some die cutting today, but you absolutely don't need to do that. If you've got a trimmer, just trim to a rectangle. Trim this to a rectangle. It'll be absolutely fine. But if you can push the boat out a bit and do some die cutting, then you just get a little bit extra on your card. Hope you enjoyed those cards today. Thank you for joining me so much. All the things I've used are listed down below, so you can just click on one of them and it'll take you through to my shop, or they'll all be on my blog. There'll be more photos of the card on my blog if you wanted to save a photo anywhere to remind you what to do. They'll all be on my blog, and again the link is below. Would love it if you're not a subscriber, if you could press the subscribe button. That would be absolutely great. But thank you for watching anyway. Hope you'll come back soon and see what I've been up to. But meanwhile, thanks for watching, and I will see you very soon. Bye.